Are you ready to go on a journey to discover your world within? Today, I have the wonderful opportunity to sit down with Eddie Pinero. Eddie is an international speaker, a successful YouTuber, a speechwriter, a video producer, and the founder of Your World Within. Eddie is considered one of the leading voices in personal development, with his videos accumulating more than 200 million streams worldwide. Eddie is known for utilizing a unique combination of storytelling, philosophy, and motivation that makes his work and his message both powerful and incredibly impactful. Eddie's journey is a reflection of what it truly means to embrace discomfort, to find the beauty in the struggle, and to relentlessly pursue one's dreams against all odds. So let's dive in. Eddie, thank you for being here with me today and welcome to the show.
Harry, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. And that was an awesome intro. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. My pleasure, Eddie. So, Eddie, take me back. Take me back to the moment where you realized that pursuing a traditional career path in Boston was just not for you.
Yeah, I want to say it was a culmination of moments, and it was, and I think this is important, less in the affirmative, like this is what I'm going to do, and more this doesn't feel right, so I'm going to push it away. Like finding the pieces that didn't quite fit. Because I went down a pretty traditional path where it was like high school and then college. And then what do you do after college? Well, you look within your network and your community, see what you can find, in the corporate world or whatever. And that's what I knew and that's what I did. And, it wasn't a horror show. Like I met some amazing people and learned some things, but every day going to work, it was like, this isn't it, right? I'm not happy. I'm not fulfilled. And I think most importantly, I'm not utilizing my skill set, like what I was here to do. And so, um, at that time, after work, I was sort of writing music. I was working on a little, like an acoustic project, playing shows around Boston, and ultimately left my job and started doing that full time, like writing music, making videos, like even creative writing, blogging, doing all this stuff. And so the inception of Your World Within was realizing that, yeah, the corporate world, I didn't love it, but you see the other side where it's like, but that paycheck was pretty nice, right? And you don't have that. And when you don't have that coming in, you start worrying about things that you never had to worry about before. Then there's a temptation, Eddie, just go back to that, right? Like things where you didn't love it, but like you could survive. And I wrote this speech called Ode to Excellence that was like, no, put your back against the wall. Don't run, right? For once in your life, see what happens when everything is on the line. It just had this inclination I wouldn't let myself fail. And that speech, Ode to Excellence, I got to kind of take all these little things that I love to do and put them together for the first time, where it was, looking at background music and video editing and, writing a speech and speaking it over music with the cadence and created this, like, what I felt was like an artful expression, put it out onto the world and it was helping people. I started to get feedback and I'm like, this is it. It took a long time to get here, but this is it. And so that was the path that I started walking down.
Yeah, yeah. And like I like what you said about like it wasn't like it was more like I knew that what I was doing wasn't it. And then you had that courage to say, okay, well, let me pursue what is it. Because I think often people will want some level of certainty over what it is that they're going to do or what it is that their next step will be. And
Yes.
to be able to sort of navigate the world where, okay, it isn't certain, but what I am certain of is that where I'm at right now isn't where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah. No, that's beautifully said. I think certainty is it keeps a lot of people stagnant, keeps them where they are. This understanding, like, well, I have to have a roadmap. I have to know exactly where I'm going to get. And it's like that's not how life works. Like life, I mean, you might have a North Star, but it's like you step out and you kind of pick up the pieces along the way. Then you have to trust yourself to do that.
Mhm.
Um, and so like yeah, there's like these little different seasons of life where even starting YouTube, right? So like you get the courage to step out and leave that world behind, and then you start writing speeches, making YouTube videos, and each little one it's like, well, this isn't perfect, or this speech could be better, or maybe I should send it to 20 people and see what they like. There's always this perfectionism you have to detach from and just go. And
Yeah.
the better we get at flexing that muscle, the freer we are.
Right. And I think your work, it's super creative and it's also super personal because you talk like in your videos, all your speeches are really about you and your journey and your takeaways and how those takeaways can help other people gain clarity over their own lives. And I guess I'm curious, how did you find the courage to put stuff out when you don't know how it's going to land, if it'll be criticized, if people won't like it, if you'll get negative comments, and just really just put that work all out there without the thinking of self?
Yeah, I mean, emotionally removing yourself from it, right? It becomes a process, and you realize like it's a numbers game. Sometimes things hit, sometimes they don't. It's not either way a referendum on you. It's just what you do, and so that mindset really helps. I had a writing coach talk to me once about earning the tell, which is like you have to you have to go through something to obtain some level of understanding to be able to then say, oh, and guys, by the way, I think this will help you as well. And so that's really what the channel is about and what I seek to do. It's like life is an adventure and it's an experiment, and hey, I learned some things, and we share, depend regardless of what you do or where you're at. It's like there's so much overlap in what we're going through that talking about some of those things, putting that out there, connects with people. And so that's really, yeah, like stripping away all the excess. It's like just put out value and it will connect with who it connects with.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I agree. I think, what you put out will attract the people that are meant to come into your path or into your circle and it will create inspiration for them because it's the meaning that they assign to what it is that you're saying, right? And you may assign a completely different meaning, but their takeaway was the takeaway that they needed to help
Yeah.
them where they're currently at in their journey.
So well said. And it's a transient thing, right? It's like sometimes like there are days, even my favorite speakers, like there are days where like I love Jordan Peterson. I could walk for 3 hours and listen to Jordan Peterson. But then there are some days where I'm like, I can't do that today, right? I need Gary Vee to call me a bitch and tell me to get out of bed and work harder. You know what I mean? It's just like it depends on the
Yeah.
what you're going through in the season. And so yeah, it's like a buffet. When people need it or are pulled to it, will come in and take it. And I think that's cool.
It's true. It's true. Every day, it's like there's like some days we do need that kick, to kind of get us going because maybe we're just up in our head a lot and we're thinking about things and we're doubting ourselves. And other days, we need inspiration and we need people to tell us what's possible, and it really just depends.
Yeah.
Yeah, it depends on our mood and what we have going on in our lives and how we're processing our emotions. But I find like when I listen to your videos, I find like I actually enjoy listening to them like when I first wake up because I find like if I can get the right things in my mind, the positive things, the inspirational things, it really sets me up better for my day in realizing that every day is a world of opportunity and possibility. And I find like your videos really hit and like they really land on me when I just do it as the first thing.
That means a lot. That's really cool to hear. And I'm with you on the morning thing too. It's like it's funny because I talk about this a lot. There's no right or wrong way. I have friends that sleep in till 10 and their night owls work until 3, and like, do you, right? But to me, it's like the morning is so precious and so like uh it sets up the entirety of the day. It's like if you win the morning, at least in my life, if I get up and I do the right things and I listen to the right things and I hydrate and go jump in the cold plunge, I just feel like $1,000,000, and that carries through. So like, yeah, it's the morning is definitely a priming section of the day.
Oh, 100%, 100%. So talk to me about like discomfort because I know like you've gone through a lot of discomfort in your life, whether it be
Yeah.
like changing jobs or trying something new or having something fail, or even
Mm.
like you can even go to like your YouTube channel. I think that's been, I think you began it maybe in, was it 2014 where you began that YouTube channel?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And like it took years before you saw some sizable growth, some success, some traction, but you kept
Sure.
going, right? Where many people would probably stop, right? And many people probably do because after like years and years of putting hard work into something, when they don't see the results, sometimes we give up, right?
Yeah.
So talk to
Oh,
me
yeah.
about that, because that's something that I find super unique about your story. In that there were many years where you didn't see that growth, but you did keep going. So tell me about
Yeah.
what was going on in your mind.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question for me. Like, you know how you have those light bulb moments that are kind of they shape or create a new trajectory for you. I always thought I worked hard, so like in high school I did enough to get good grades and was, a decent athlete. And but I didn't really understand. I was missing a piece, and so I went to college and I joined the crew team there, rowing team, which
Mhm.
was incredibly transformative for me because it was like I'd never suffered like that. I'd never put my body through that. But not only that, you do it and you learn that. And by the way, this doesn't mean you're going to win. Like, you can suffer and suffer and suffer and put your body through these insane workouts and 2Ks and 6Ks and all this stuff and get your ass kicked on Saturday at the race. And so, like, to me, that was like such a light bulb moment. I remember being on that machine and the freshman coach being like, in like my mind, I'm suffering. And so I'm feeling sorry for myself. I'm feeling like a hero for being there. And he just looks at the screen, looks at me, looks at the screen. He goes, that's great, but the guy at Georgetown's going a little faster. And so, like, to me, the reason that was so transformative and something I carried with me, and still do, is because learning to suffer is a skill set. Um, it's almost in a lot of ways like putting a quarter in a gumball machine and turning it. It's like the cost of admission. And so, you fast forward however many years to your point with sort of the YouTube stuff. Um, I was acclimated to the idea that just because you put out a video and you work really hard on it, or you thought you came across this beautiful transformative message, the world doesn't owe you anything, right? And so it's like it misses. And so you just have to show up and get on the metaphorical rowing machine the next day, right? Grab the mic the next day and try again and try again and try again. And it's not like, blind square peg round hole. It's no, what did you learn? Make a little adjustment and fire and fire and fire. And I believed in myself. And it did take time. And I was growing. It's not like I was completely stagnant, but pretty minimal growth.
Mhm.
Um, and so when it did, like, like you mentioned, 2014 I started, and then 2021 is when I saw that sort of first hockey stick exponential growth. It didn't surprise me. It was almost like taking a splinter out, right? It's like, okay, like, fine, finally, like, here we go, new chapter. And so, yeah, that was the mindset. Just continuously showing up, not having a plan B. The door is not cracked, it's shut. This is what I'm doing. I'm going to win here or I'm going to lose here, but here is the arena that I'm in. And I think that just it gave me yeah, no options but to figure it out.
That's so good. And one thing you said that really stuck with me is you said the world doesn't owe you anything.
Yeah.
And I think like that's true because I think sometimes we think that it does because we're putting in the effort, because we're putting in the hard work, because we're suffering, right? Because we're taking on risks. But at the end of the day, nobody owes you anything, but you owe yourself. You owe yourself
Yeah.
to keep moving, to keep learning and growing and pivoting and, course correcting until you get it right. But you can't do that if you don't believe in yourself. If you don't believe that you're 4 feet from gold, that you're going to get there. It's just a matter of time and course correction, you know? So it's
Yeah.
I think that's one of the common threads among people who do end up being successful after many, many years of attempts and trying. I think it's because ultimately they actually have a belief that it will happen for them.
Yeah. Exactly. You have to. I mean, and I think that's why it's a lonely thing. It's like you're carrying this idea that is completely made up. It's completely in your head. I always say no one walks up to you and puts their arm around you and says, "Hey, that idea is amazing." Like, you're gonna, that partner you're looking for, you're gonna find it. That $1 million business. Oh no, like you have to show them. You have to bring it to life. That's why one of my favorite quotes, Nietzsche, those who were seen dancing were thought to be insane by those who couldn't hear the music. I repeat that all the time because there's an element of crazy you have to have with you in order to bring something like that into the world. That's just how it is. And it's not because people suck or they don't get people. I mean, just being pragmatic, people believe things they see. And
Yes.
so, and by the way, like 99 point whatever, right, percent of ideas never come to fruition because people get, uncomfortable with the uncertainty. They don't like the discomfort. They can't handle the loneliness. These are trials and tribulations that for whatever reason, people go, it's more expensive than I want to pay, metaphorically speaking. So yeah, you have to carry that, understand that it's a little crazy, but it should be, and you'll bring it to life.
Yeah. And it's true. Like we like our comfort zones. It's familiar. It's
Oh
certain.
yeah.
You know what to expect, and there's that saying like, oh, you have to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. But it's like for me, it's kind of been the opposite in that like actually for me, the comfortable is uncomfortable because I feel like there's no novelty, there's no growth, there's
Mm,
like I'm just doing the same thing day in, day out, and that's just mundane. Like there's nothing to look forward to. Whereas, like, if you allow yourself to be uncomfortable, you actually have a window to discover who you actually are, what you're capable of achieving and creating and becoming, you know? So for me, it's like
cool.
actually, I enjoy the uncomfortable because it's a challenge and I
Yeah,
that on.
that's where the excitement is. That's why you're stepping out onto a brand new adventure here on your end as well. It's like
That's true.
that's imagine not do imagine depriving yourself of that journey. You know?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I mean, even like I met you in Arizona about 10 days ago, right? At the mastermind that we had at Genius. And honestly, it's like I would never be here had I not even gotten uncomfortable with joining the mastermind in the first place, right?
Mm,
Like I had to have joined Evan's program and joined Evan's mastermind and decided like I'm worthy of doing this. I believe in me and I'm investing in myself and I'm going to put myself out there and have these experiences. And it's like, wow, the number of decisions that you'd have to make to get to where you are, right? Like even for yourself in your journey, like think about like all the junctures and in your life's path that like the decisions you made, you went right, you went left. Like you had to have done all those things for us to be on here in a call today. Like it's
yeah.
amazing. It's amazing. And I think you're the one that says something like you're always one decision away from changing your life. Is that about right?
Yeah, yeah. I love that. Um, it's the incentive. Like you're always because it's very easy to be, emotional about things not going the way you want them to. Especially, I mean, to your point, like you can't. A lot of times you can't draw things out. It's like a lot of decisions brought us here, and so sometimes you swing and miss, and it's not a referendum on you. It's like this is part of the process, and by the way, you're one right decision away from
Mm,
things changing dramatically in your favor, and you
what
always are. Um,
what a
which is
shift.
kind of a cool, yeah. Like you take the metaphor up another level. It's like if you imagine you're sitting in a dark room, which is a lot of times what it feels like, not knowing. At least to me, it creates anxiety. That's like one of the most difficult things. It's like the uncertainty, right? So if you picture this metaphorical dark room, if you don't know there's a light switch within an arm's reach, it's a lot different feeling than knowing, nope, there is one and it's somewhere here. I just have to reach out and find it. And so if you take that with you into every scenario, it's calming, but it's also true. There's always something there of value that can bring you a step closer and a step forward. And
Yeah.
that's always that's worth, holding on to.
And that goes back to belief, right? Like
Mm,
believing in the possibility, believing that the answer is out there, believing that you are close to it. Like
Yes.
I think that that's a lot of us, I think, struggle with having that belief, that self-belief. Like we believe it's possible for others, but sometimes we just don't believe it's possible for ourselves, right?
Yeah, 10,000%.
And
Yeah,
sometimes
coupled with the idea that it's not like in the micro something's there, but in the macro it's a long game, right? There's two things sort of happening at once there. But
it's true.
yeah.
And I think that's what I've discovered in my journey. It's like you get into something thinking like there's a quick way to success. There's a get rich quick scheme. There's a secret that once I know it, I'll have unlocked the future that I'm looking for. But what I realize in being able to interview many entrepreneurs is like there's truly no secret. It has to do with the ability to do things over a long period of time, the ability to stay committed and consistent, the ability to do the work, right? And not expect that you're going to get that instant gratification, right? Your ability to delay the gratification and actually fall in love with the process of the journey
Mm,
trying to create for yourself instead of trying to figure out like what's the fastest path to the destination, right? So
isn't that the truth? Yeah.
yeah,
The
yeah, so
idea, the idea, not all who wander are lost. I think we talked about this a little bit too at the mastermind. It's like life is not this rigid checklist with right or wrong or yes or no. It's just so messy and chaotic and like great, go dive into it. That's yeah, you go make something of it. It's not when you aspire to be perfect, when you think everything is a particular way, or there's right and wrong, or the good path and bad, it's like, no, just go and start tinkering with things. Like I remember going to my buddy's house and seeing his toddler going around just like picking up books, using it to like build things, like poking things, pushing things, taking a blanket, making a fort. Like everything was just this canvas. And I think to an extent, a lot of the folks that are in our circles, the people that we talk to, the same way. Like they're asking themselves constantly, "What can I build or make with what's around me?" And that's such a beautiful mindset. It's like this is not, yeah, it's not right or wrong. It's an art project.
yeah, and it's like also like a beginner's mind, and like being open to the possibilities of what's available around you. And when you were saying that, I was thinking about my kids and like how when they're young like that, it's like they're creative and imaginative and like they don't have a specific picture in their mind and then they're trying to figure out how to perfect their life to meet that image of what their future is supposed to look like. It's like they're kind of just going with the flow. They're imaginative, creative, and and they're not holding on to like certain expectations, right, or specific outcomes. And that's kind of sometimes how art's also created, like you don't go into it
Yeah,
exactly what it's going to look like. It's going to evolve if you stay open and receptive to what's around you, to who's around you, to tap into like your innate intuition and be able to allow that to navigate you. So I think like embracing the mess, I think is part of the beauty.
yeah, yeah. It's a good book title. Embrace the mess.
There we go.
Yeah,
I need to go patent it right now.
there you go. Yeah,
Yeah, embrace the mess. I think that that's sort of one of the ways that we can let go of expectation, right? And maybe embrace more like appreciation for the chaos or the unknowns. And I think like for me personally, like I've struggled with like being able to move away from certainty and embrace more of the uncertainty, because in uncertainty there's more opportunity, right? There's more like there's just more outcomes that you can achieve. There's more possibilities in that world, and it's like, why wouldn't you want that? Why wouldn't you
yeah.
want options? Why wouldn't you want that? So yeah.
Agreed. Yeah. Speaking of JP, he had a metaphor that kind of talked about that too. Like if you think about the uncertainty or chaos as a staircase, it's like you step onto a new stair, and it's like scary and uncertain and chaotic. But
Mhm.
then naturally you acclimate and you tame it. And so that becomes boring and mundane. Like too much order is a bad thing, just like too much chaos is a bad thing. So once you tame it, you're ready to move on to the next stair and the next. And that's like that's where you carve out meaning in life. It's like ascending that ladder and taking unknowns and making things out of them.
Mm. Wow, I've not heard it said like that. That's how you get meaning in life. Yeah, absolutely. And I think like in hindsight, we look back and realize like, oh, wow, okay, it served a purpose. Like they
Yeah.
always try to find the teachings, the lessons, the good. And while in the moment, it's hard to do that because we're going through so much. When you look back, it's like, wow, okay, what did I learn about myself? Like I'll often found my experiences teach me more about who I am, you know?
Yes.
So I
Yeah.
think that's beautiful. So I really want to know about like your creative process when you write these incredible speeches, and they truly on a personal level, like they resonate so deeply. Like not everyone's message lands on everyone, but when you find someone whose message truly lands and really allows you to go deeper within yourself, to really ask yourself more introspective questions. I'm
Mm.
curious, what happens with you when you make these speeches? Where are you sourcing your inspiration from? Is it sort of like it's something that you do on a daily basis, or it's something you do when something happens? Like, how does the process begin for you, and how long does it take?
Yeah. Yeah, it's somewhat dependent, but I think there's just a level of awareness, and I think we see all of us like a lot of things throughout the day that are uh, exciting in some way. They're either they tap into our curiosity, or they bring us up, or they bring us down. And I think I've gotten a good idea of identifying that stuff and just making a note about it. And so whether it's something I experienced, something that happened to me, something I read, something a song I listened to, a quote. I like quoting songs sometimes. I'll grab a line and kind of expound upon it. But yeah, just taking things from life, like pulling it off a shelf. So I have everything in Evernote, and I'll go through, like when it's time to write. I'll go through and find something that I think is particularly interesting. And like a big thing for me is the sort of uh, creative component, right? So I mentioned previously the music world. So like after I found a topic, immediately go into that space, like that headspace, find a song or something that I feel like fits that, um, sort of creating that background track, looping it, and writing to that song. And that's how I feel like it sort of ties the music and the message together. It's just a matter of writing it and sort of fine tuning the message.
Mm. So then does the music like does it help you develop the message, or does the message actually lead and helps you find the music that fits the message, or is it both? I don't know.
You know what's crazy? It is both. I mean, because there are times where I've heard a song that like, or I stumble across like uh something like I've a speech called "Make You Proud," where I heard the music before I knew what I was going to write about, and I'm just like, this is so good. Like it'd be impossible for me to not make something good with this that resonates, right? Because the music was just like, there's it. And then there are times where it's like, maybe this message is like a little bit more methodical, a little bit more practical. Here's the message, point A, B, C, and D, and it's structured less as spoken word and more like a keynote. And then the music's a little less important there. It's just sort of filler in the background. So it is totally dependent. Um, but yeah, they sort of push and pull on each other. They work together.
Yeah, yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And like I find that your work and your videos on YouTube are super unique, like super unique in the YouTube space for sure, for
Well,
sure.
thank you.
And I guess my question is like for YouTubers who are aspiring to build their channels and build their subscribership and put out good value and good content,
Mm.
I guess like what like advice do you have for YouTubers in terms of like how do you find your voice and how do you stand out in on a platform that's heavily saturated with tons of channels, you know what I mean, like there's lots of noise on YouTube, but you've managed to really stand out in the crowd. So, like, what advice would you
Mm.
have for people who are?
Yeah, I mean, there are so many things, so many things. So I think like, there are some of the cliche like reps. I mean,
Yeah.
reps, because every rep you'll come back and you'll realize, you can sort of fine tune it, and be a little bit better than you were on the previous one. I think another big thing is like in the information age, particularly on YouTube, it's what people tend to do is say, hey, this is the channel that I like and want to emulate. Therefore, I'm going to copy this channel. And
Mhm.
so there is like a still like an artist idea, like everyone's inspired. You're taking pieces of inspiration from the world around you and utilizing it. And good, you should, right? But you have to understand you'll never be successful trying to clone someone else or being a carbon copy of someone else. Your unique authenticity, your style, um, combined with what you've learned about what works around you is what's going to set you apart, right? So like I can point to other channels on YouTube where I learned some things or I saw something stylistically and I thought that's interesting. Like what can I do with that? But I've always tried to stay true to what I do best and what feels like quote unquote Eddie Pinero. And I do think a lot of people miss that totally. It's like Alex Hermosi's killing it. So how do we become Alex Hermosi? It's like, well, he's the only one who's going to be able to do that. Like, what can you add? Um, so I think that's a big one. Um, the ability to be okay putting out sloppy work, like even when something feels half baked or undone, it's like you put it into the ether, you detach, and you move on to the next one. That creates a really good mindset around just not being emotionally invested or tied to results. It's like you are tied to the process. That's what's going to make you great, and that's what's going to set you up for longevity. So I think that's big. And then criticism. You have to understand that doesn't matter what you do or how good you are at what you do, you're going to get criticism online. And so for a lot of people, that's a huge deal, right? So I have friends of mine that, they don't even have a very big, these folks I have in mind now, like don't even have a very big channel. And most of the comments that they get are positive, but they'll get one and it'll just like, it'd be like a shot across the bow of their ship. And it's like, you have to understand that that's just the part of the course. That's the way it goes. So I think toughening up there too and learning, hey, it's like, if you don't want criticism, fine, close the door to your bedroom and stay in there for the rest of your life. No one will know about you and criticize you. Um, so yeah, I think those are the big ones, to as far as setting yourself up on the platform.
Yeah, those are some really good points. And to your point to criticism, like they're going to criticize you regardless. So you might as well just do what it is that you feel called to do, right?
Yeah.
If that's the calling on your life and that's the message you want to put out, it's going to hit those that don't want it, but it'll more than likely hit those that actually do want it. And those are the people that you're trying to attract anyway. So yeah, it's detaching. I think it's to practice detachment. I think that's where the struggle is the ability to not take things personal and just attach to the process and detach from how things land. And
Yeah. It's true. I mean, because it's not personal. No one's thinking about you. They're thinking about the even negative comments. I mean, the negative commenter is thinking, are people going to like this post? How is this post going to be received? Right? It's like everyone just wants attention in their own little arena. And so, yeah, it's truly. I mean, that was so beautifully said. It's just it's not personal. And then I think noting too, it's like the difference between criticism and feedback, right? Like there's nuance when someone says this guy's voice sucks, right? You smile and you scroll. Versus Eddie, longtime listener, the 4-minute speech didn't do it for me. I really liked the 12-minute speech. I mean, you take that in from it doesn't mean you change your path and what you're doing, but it's like, okay, that's valuable, constructive feedback from someone who enjoys what I do. So you take that differently, and I think understanding that nuance is important.
yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. And like often I think like if there's criticism or feedback, I think like intent. What's the intent of this comment? Is it to help me or is it to hurt me? And I think that's sort of how I look at criticism slash feedback and try to like decipher, is it criticism or is someone's just trying to help me get better?
Yeah, that's a great point. What's the rationale behind it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I personally find like it's hard for me to criticize, or even give feedback sometimes because I tend to like be super empathic and I don't ever want to hurt anyone's feelings and it's like, but at the same time, like someone told me, well, there's a difference between being kind and being nice, right? Being nice serves you because you don't want to be uncomfortable in your feelings, but being kind serves that person because if there's something that could help them get better or be better, then you should tell them, even though it's going to be uncomfortable. So that was a really important
Yeah.
distinction that I think of often when I'm trying to be nice.
Powerful.
I shouldn't.
Yeah, yeah, and particularly like a friend or someone in your professional circle. You're doing a lot. You're busy. You have a successful coaching business. Like you have a lot going on. You're not going to be on the internet proactively delving out feedback to strangers. And so like that's the thing. It's like most of that's coming from. Let me rephrase that. People that are doing big things or are immersed in something meaningful just don't have the
Yeah.
and so like to understand that's pretty important.
Yeah. And also often criticism comes from a place of pain, right? Like if you have the time to go online and tear someone down, it's like there's stuff that's going on and probably in your life that you probably don't want to pay attention to. And it's just much easier to be more outwardly focused than, inwardly focused. So I think like I tend to have a lot of empathy for like I used to be like, why would you say that? Who would say that? And not on my content. Although there have been a couple of things on YouTube on my videos that I was like, why are they saying that? And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
delete, delete. And then someone said, you know what? Don't delete it. Don't delete it because in your response to that person it actually shows who you are, right? So don't delete the comment, respond to it and allow people to see who is Mary when she gets a negative comment. Like, who is that person that shows up? Because often that's who you really are, right? We can be perfect in perfect conditions, but it's when our conditions are less than perfect. Who do we show up as? Who are we?
Yeah. No, it says a lot about your belief in yourself and security. And yeah, 10,000%. If someone calls you something that's objectively untrue, it's like, well, why would it bother you?
Right. Unless it was true.
Yeah. Right. Well, yeah.
No, that's good. So then like, you and I, Eddie, talked a little bit about kind of what you're cooking up now and sort of what's next now that you've got, your channel and you've got so many things dialed in. What is sort of the next thing, the next project that you're now working on?
Yeah. So on the Eddie Pinero, like the content side, continuing to scale and create more episodes of the podcast. Um, I've started something called EP Studio for businesses, which is sort of a turnkey service that provides marketing, social media stuff for companies that maybe don't have the time to create that roadmap, the personal branding side, the content creation side. So that's been fun, and it's put it's created relationships with some companies that I wouldn't have seen from all aspects of life. So that's been pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. So it's
Yeah.
basically like you're sort of packaging what has been super helpful and successful for you in putting out your personal brand and building out your channel and helping sort of other companies sort of do the same, put out those videos and create those maybe promotional materials. Is that what it is?
Yeah, exactly. So like personal brand is so important to a successful business. Like everything is about relationships. And so a lot of companies just completely neglect that because they don't have the time. But if you're not adding value to an audience and growing a community, it's going to be a lot harder to do what you need to do to sell your products and services. And so, yeah, I mean, essentially having done that for 10 years, created the infrastructure, um, and built a community of people that, value what I do. It's like taking those pieces and helping other organizations do the same thing.
It's beautiful. And do you help also like individuals, like solopreneurs or people say trying to build out their channel or trying to build out their speaking career? Like you have a lot of expertise in a lot of areas.
Right. Yeah. Work with a few coaches and content creators as well. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing. That's amazing. So, Eddie, if people want to find out a little bit more about you, what you do, your channel, and all the service offerings, like where's the best place that they can go to follow you and get a hold of you?
Yeah, so for the podcast and the videos that I put out, YouTube is great. You can just put Eddie Pinero. For the studio, the creative agency, it's epstudio.ai. You can find anything there. And then I'm pretty responsive on Instagram under just Eddie Pinero. So if you want to shoot me a note, I will, yeah, get back to you as soon as I can.
We'll link it all up in the video description as well. So, Eddie, if you could, give one piece of advice to an aspiring entrepreneur who's on the verge of leaving their career to pursue their dream, what would that be?
Hmm. I think I'm going to stick with our theme here, where it's leave the idea of perfection behind. It's step out and expect chaos and expect unknowns, but understand that you are capable of navigating it. And so that space, that rationale is the reason so many people don't go. They're looking out the window, they're seeing unknowns, and they're saying, I don't have the answers, therefore I will not go. So trust yourself to pick things up and put things together in motion. That's how it gets done.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Trust yourself.
Have to trust yourself.
100%. 100%. Well, Eddie, thank you. This was such a great interview. I love your journey. I love your story, especially because it's sort of where I'm at in my journey in terms of being very close to leaving my career and pursuing what it is that I actually want in life. So thank you for the inspiration. And I hope that we get to talk again soon.
Hey, congrats on the courage and doing that. Big things ahead.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Mary.
you. Take care.